And here we are once again for another AEW Dynamite review here on the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel. Hello, it is Warren, who is going to apologize in advance for how my voice is going to sound for the next few minutes that we're spending together here. I don't know exactly how this is going to turn out. My autumn allergies are kicking my ass today. Like, you know, it when it comes to seasonal allergies for me, this is the worst time of year. It's not the spring. It is absolutely the fall. This is where things really crank up, and people say, well, isn't that weird? There's no more pollen. No, that's wrong. There is still pollen. There's still shit flying around, ragweed, of course, being a culprit. You've also got stuff like nettles and sagebrush and cocklebur. That's right. Cocklebur is a thing. You might be allergic to cocklebur. You don't realize it. Russian thistle, those commies coming in with their own thistles, making sure that us, productive capitalists get whipped in the ass. No, but seriously, I apologize. I feel congested. I feel like my throat is, like I'm constantly like scraping for breath. Like that, but we're gonna do this. We're still gonna talk about Dynamite. We're still gonna talk about the October 16 edition of AEW Dynamite, which happened yesterday. We record this. We're recording this on the 17th, always the day after. But the big question is, how many times am I going to have to edit out me sneezing from this video? As it stands right now, the count is at 1, and we're about, we're not even 3 minutes into the review yet. It's gonna be great. This is going to be an experience. But look, let's get right to it then, so as to not tempt fate too much. October 16, 2024, San Jose was the town that had the old AEW Dynamite show up. The SAP Center, 3,266 tickets distributed according to WrestleTix. This is, of course, I'm saying this as if everyone is aware, but this was the venue debut. And again, a good crowd, but 3,266 in an arena that sits 17,000. Again, it's not fantastic. And Dave Meltzer yesterday wrote a very interesting piece behind his paywall over on Figure 4 Wrestling, and was basically talking about how, the media deal is set and there's still more deals to come. They're still working on, obviously still working on the new Shockwave thing, whatever that turns out to be. They're even still working on Ring of Honor to make that happen as well. But he did mention that AEW's biggest problem right now, moving forward at least, for the next 3 years, as he said, over the duration of the deal, is perception. They are going to have to meet this perception problem that they have right now head on, so that they don't feel like, it's okay to be so that they don't feel like a small time outfit, right? There's nothing wrong with being, there's nothing wrong with being second best, I guess, for being number 2, the number 2 promotion, but you don't want the gap between you and the main guys to be, very, very far apart. You don't want that gap to be too wide. And one of the things that AEW can and should do is, Dave was pointing out, is maybe start running smaller venues, right? And longtime listeners of this review will tell you that this was often something that I would bring up as well. There is, even though let's say you run a 5,000 seat arena and you're able to fill it out, well, then that venue will feel more electric, more dynamic than if you are putting, if you're putting a third of the capacity of a basketball arena into the building, right? It's better for the vibes, it's better for the perception, and it's better when you're live too. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise. You can't just go around saying, oh yeah, I don't know, the show was great. You can barely tell there was only 3,000 people in the building. No, those people are lying. You can absolutely feel it. The energy's not the same. So this is something that, AEW will have to combat, and I agree with that. I think it's something that we discuss here in different ways. But I think right now AEW is at its lowest perception-wise since its inception, despite the fact that it got a tremendous deal. It has to fight this off now. It has to really try to recapture some of the great stuff, some of the great vibes that it once was known for. It was legendary for that. It was entirely its thing. Anyway, I highly suggest you check out the article. Of course, I'm not gonna. I'm paraphrasing it. I'm not going to read it off because it is behind a paywall. Go check it out. It's an interesting read. And in case you're wondering, 3 edits so far because of sneezing. This is going to go so well. Let's get to the show itself. The show starts off with a recap of what happened at Wrestle Dream with in the main event, I should say. Jon Moxley cutting a promo, basically saying how, he's motivated and this is a land of opportunity, and he's riding in the back of a pickup truck that he's riding in the back with Marina Shafir and Wheeler Yuta, while Claudio and Pac are in the are in the driver and passenger seat. Moxley says that there's a new paradigm and it's very simple. Everyone in AEW works for him now. So this is it's going down the same path as had been established over the past couple of weeks, where Moxley's group is menacing, and this was very good. It was again another very chilling promo. And Mox is tremendous in this. He's been terribly good, and it is still the most intriguing angle. But as we see when we get to it, we have another example of AEW having a little trouble with the follow-ups. And I think this is pretty much my overarching theme here in regards to this episode of Dynamite, where we come off a really, really good pay-per-view. Once again, if you've listened to my review, you already know that I think this is probably my, it's in my top 3 AEW pay-per-views of the year. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. And we come off it with the first Dynamite back, and we're having trouble following that momentum. And that's a classic AEW trope at this point, is that the follow-ups, the angles in themselves are usually all excellent. It's the follow-ups that we struggle with. And I feel we're already struggling with this one here, but we'll get to that once we cross that bridge. Adam Cole then comes out for he gets the first crack on the stick of the night. This is it's new now, right? It's a new thing now that AEW for the past multiple weeks been starting off with, extended vignettes or promos and stuff like that, instead of just jumping into matches, which used to be the signature of AEW. And I haven't been talking about it because I told you all a couple of weeks ago, look, I'm going to stop pointing out every week when AEW does things that resemble what the other guys do. Because otherwise, I'm a broken record. Probably you all get fed up about it, but that doesn't mean it's not happening if I'm not mentioning it every week. I haven't been mentioning every week that recently anyway, that starting your wrestling program with a 7-minute promo or whatever is a very WWE thing to do, as opposed to starting up with the match, because we're sitting down to watch some wrestling. Why don't you just give us some wrestling, right? So I'm mentioning it now because I felt it was particularly egregious last night that this started off as such, and as opposed to with a match. And it's been the case for a few weeks that this has been happening. So I'm going to point it out here, and I'm going to leave it at that. I much preferred how Dynamite used to just start off with a great match. Yeah, you remember, the good old bookends where you start with a great match and you end with a great match. But again, AEW kind of drifts away from where it was. This identity that it used to have is not quite there anymore. Now we're just doing what the other guys do. It's just AEW doing stuff just like the other guys do. Whatever we tried, whatever identity we had, it's not there necessarily anymore. We're just doing what the other guys do. Whatever made us special, whatever made us different is, all these nice little details. It's just not there anymore. Instead, we'd rather have Adam Cole come to the ring to cut the first promo of the evening. And like I've said also multiple times as well, I don't necessarily have a problem when a show starts with a promo segment, because if said promo has, important significance for the rest of the show, or it's a huge angle, or, there's reasons sometimes you need to start your show with a promo. I don't think this show was crucial to, let me rephrase that. I don't think Adam Cole's return and reignition of his feud with MJF was significant enough to warrant being on the show, being on the first promo segment of the night in the first quarter hour. I don't think we necessarily needed that per se. It's not that big a deal. The Adam Cole MJF stuff, not that big. They're going to have to work to reignite that cachet. Let's put it that way. Anyway, Cole he gets on the mic and he talks about how, first of all, he says, "No, I'm not out here with the Undisputed Kingdom. I love them, but I told them I need to do this myself." And that's a bummer to me, where I'm like, oh, we're still doing this. We're still doing the Undisputed Kingdom stuff. All right, whatever you say, Adam. Basically he starts talking about MJF and how MJF is the worst human being he's ever met, and he keeps going on and on and on about it. It's not a great promo. Like, honestly, it's well delivered, but the content is not there. It's not very good. He drones on, like he's essentially repeating himself over and over again just to make sure we understand that MJF is a scumbag, and that's fine. We understand that MJF is a scumbag, and we understand that he did you wrong, despite the fact that you're the guy who turned on him. And this is going to be weird. Because when the turn happened, it was Adam Cole attacking MJF. So at the time of the turn, Adam Cole was supposed to be the babyface, and MJF was supposed to be Adam Cole was supposed to be the heel, and MJF was supposed to be the babyface. Now the roles have been reversed. MJF is currently the heel, so Adam Cole has to justify this as a babyface action. And I don't know if this did it. I don't know if this promo did it. It was kind of meandering. It was always kind of the same thing over and over again. I really didn't care for it. Then MJF pops up on the Tonytron from a pre-recorded promo where he's sipping some wine and basically saying, yeah, Adam Cole, you want revenge? You want to get that pound of flesh or whatever? Well, when you betrayed me, it left a void in me, and so you're never going to get your hands on me, so that you also will be unfulfilled and have this void that will never be filled, essentially. So yeah, I mean, again, weird timing for this. I don't, did it belong on the top of the show? No, I don't think so. I don't think it was that significant. We really could have just fired things off with a match. And the content in and about itself, I don't think was all that compelling. I don't think it was very good. And there's a lot of people who really don't like Adam Cole that have turned on him to a degree. You know, and I'm not as hard as a lot of people are. You know, I still like Adam Cole, but holy smokes, you know, this was a little on the rough side. This a lot. It was a lot on the rough side. We get a Chris Jericho interview then backstage. Well, it's from Saturday, right? It was pre-taped at Wrestle Dream, where he's basically putting over the fact that he's starring in the #1 movie in America, Terrifier 3, and Fozzie's on tour, and that he's about to get ready to become the Nueve, win the Ring of Honor World Championship, and he wants a rematch again, bringing up the memory of Jay Briscoe. He said he's going to be, what did he say? I'm going to be a 2-time Ring of Honor World Champion, just like Jay Briscoe. So that leads to Mark reacting to this. And you know, he said that he was done with Jericho until he started mentioning Jay again. So next week they're going to have a ladder war for the Ring of Honor World Championship. Is it me or look? Okay, I mean it's a ladder match with Mark Briscoe. I'm okay with this. It's fine. Look, let's just see this through. Maybe it's the allergies that are talking right now, and I don't necessarily have the clarity to fully break down how divided I am on this. It is what it is, you know, because on one hand I'm like, I feel like the Ring of Honor World Champion is wrestling more on AEW than he is on his own show, which I really do believe is a thing. And it's a ladder match, and you know, Jericho just might win, right? Isn't there? There's going to be the big pay-per-view coming up, right, for Ring of Honor. I mean, they might just strap up Jericho again. I can absolutely see that happening. Yeah, and Terrifier 3, look, you know, Jericho has a, you know, I haven't seen the movie. I think he's got a bit part in it, right? I don't think that he's like a major character. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. I don't, you know, probably gets brutally murdered too. I don't know if y'all are familiar with the Terrifier series. I'm not a fan. I've seen 1 and 2, and 2. I kind of stopped paying full attention to it. Also, at some point, I was just playing on my phone, you know, trying to see how this intrigue was going to play out. And I think Terrifier 2 is better than Terrifier 1, but overall, I don't like the series. I think it's a little too sinister. It's a little too, what's the word I'm looking for? It's mean-spirited. It's too mean-spirited. That's the thing. I love horror movies. I watch tons of them, and I really love horror in general. You know, whether it's, as they like to say, the elevated horror or the good old-fashioned slasher films. I just, it's a genre that I find a lot of pleasure in. I like getting creeped out. I like being afraid. I like having a good laugh at some of the more over the top offerings out there. This I find is just, I think it's too mean spirited. There's, it's too much gore porn, I guess they call it. And it's essentially what I feel that the Terrifier films are what most people who have never seen the Saw movies accuse the Saw movies of being. The Saw films are, for the most part, very good, and there's even a couple of great ones in there as well. I'm completely disinterested in Terrifier 3. I'm probably not going to watch it. I didn't think the two others were anything special outside of the shock value, and it's going to be one of these things where, the series in and about itself is always going to want to try and top itself, because that's why people go see it. Now, don't get me wrong. I think Art the Clown as an iconic figure, as a performance, I think it's very, very fun. I think that's good. Extremely unsettling and creepy. And then sometimes dives into comedy bits and you're like, okay, it's a good vibe, but just the execution. That's the thing, is that, they're going to want to top each other top the other movie, right? That's what they're going to want to do every single time. And you just can't get into that. I can't get into that. It's too mean-spirited. It's too mean-spirited. Anyway, back to the review. Me saying, oh, my allergies today. And here I am going on sidebars. I only have myself to blame, folks. I really do. I'm my own worst enemy. FTR took on the Learning Tree. In fact, defeated the Learning Tree duo of Big Bill and Bryan Keith in an okay little match. Like I thought I think Big Bill had a lot of shine here. He has a great boss man slam, and Dax gets a hot tag in, but he gets demolished by Big Bill in this one. Diamond Dust and a big boot by the heels, but that doesn't quite work out for them. The match ends when Bryan Keith gets whipped into a shatter machine. So FTR get the win. After the match, the Outrunners come out to a big reaction and do their thing with FTR, and there you go. That's all there is to it. Renee Paquette, it's a fine match. It's a good little match. I gave it 3.25 stars now. It's good. It's fine. Good match. Renee Paquette interviewed the Acclaimed backstage. Billy Gunn had to hit the bricks, get to the car because they're going. They're going into the gym. So again, the staff come to the show. They show up, but then they leave within the first hour. They're like, oh, we got to go. We have to hit the bricks. It was Don Callis and Kyle Fletcher had to catch a plane. And now these guys have to hit the gym. Really? You have to do this now? You can't stick around for the show? So while Daddy Ass is gone, MVP and Shelton Benjamin show up. And, MVP basically says, if you guys are you want to get serious, give him a call. But the Acclaim go. Next was the Mercedes Moné match. She defeated Queen Aminata to retain the AEW TBS Championship. I thought that was pretty good. I thought that was pretty good too. Kind of like the first match. Air raid crash by Queen Aminata and a snap swinging neck breaker. And she does this great submission as well, which is a great visual. But Moné fights back with a Meteora and a backstabber, then into the statement maker. See, I remembered this week what the name is of her finisher, of her submission finisher, and she gets the win. Good for her. I keep saying, Aminata, you just give her a wee little push. Just give her a wee little push and she's going to get over. I think she's going to be very, very good. She's going to get over well with the AEW crowd. And Camille was here as well. And I saw some criticism as to, which is weird, right? It's like, oh, Camille doesn't do much for Moné. But in this circumstance here, I'm like, well, Mercedes should be defeating Queen Aminata without help from her heater. The opposite is kind of weird. If Queen Aminata has to, if Camille has to help Mercedes Moné beat Queen Aminata, who is essentially, an undercarder, someone who's not pushed. If Camille has to work to help Mercedes get over against Queen Aminata, I think we're missing the plot. And this is actually good. Like this is actually a good thing to be doing here. Looking at when you look at heels who always have difficulties winning and whatnot, this is very interesting. I thought this was good. It's weird criticism. Private Party confront the Young Bucks backstage. They demand another title match. The Young Bucks say, hey, you know what? We called you mid-carders, but you actually gave us one of our hardest title defenses, and but you're not getting another match regardless. So they walk off. Stokely Hathaway shows up and he says, basically, it's like, I'm still around. They should have him in. They should have Stokely in their corner. And besides, Isaiah Cassidy is a single star, which sort of leads to a weird, tense moment at the end between the Private Party. So I don't know if we're planning a split here. I don't know. That makes it 4 edits due to sneezing. The conglomeration trio of Kyle O'Reilly, Orange Cassidy, and Rocky Romero defeated the Elite, basically the Jacksons and Kazuchika Okada. This again was good little match, fine. Another 3.25 match. That was picking up. I thought was starting to get some groove until Wheeler Yuta runs in to attack Orange Cassidy, forcing the DQ. There's been a lot more forced DQs in this company over the past couple of months. In this company that never ever did them, and that was so refreshing. Now we're getting more and more of these. I don't want to call it a trend yet. And again, I don't want to, do the spiel about doing something different than the other guys. I don't want to do it again, but yeah, the Elite beat up Orange Cassidy. Then Top Flight and Action Andretti come in for the save, but then Mox shows up with Yuta and what do you call them? The BCC, like they referred to them as the BCC later on in the evening. I don't know what it is. Mox's group shows up. Then they all start beating up on Orange. Then Top Flight and Action Andretti show up. Then Mox, just starts destroying people. Marina Shafir as well. She, beats people up, and there's Death Riders and whatnot. Then the Dark Order running in, and the Elite are on the ramp, right? They're looking at this. They don't want to get involved. But the Dark Order run past, and they get, they get beat down as well. They have, they even hang Alex Reynolds off of the ring post with a belt. Then Mox gets on the mic and he says, this is just the cost of doing business. The Elite want nothing to do with this, and the heels, they finally take off, and Daniel Garcia, Private Party, Scrap Daddy, Christopher Daniels are all there to check on the baby faces. I've got this now. This is my main issue. This is what I was talking about previous when it comes to follow-ups. You finish Wrestle Dream with a tremendous angle. Once again, tremendous angles are something that AEW are very good at. It's something that AEW is very, very, very good at. You finish the show, Bryan Danielson's being carted off on a gurney. You have the babyface locker room out there who are despondent and sad and overwhelmed. And, there's a gravity that's been established. There's a hush that fell over the crowd. We've hit the moment perfectly. We come back into this show. We come back into this week's Dynamite, right? And you're expecting this to be a bit of a centerpiece. You're expecting Mox to do crazy stuff or whatever, to talk, to, And they even had the graphic out saying Jon Moxley is now AEW World Champion. No one is safe. Something to that effect. So you're like, oh, okay, all right. Okay. Interesting stuff. Let's go. But outside commentary mentioning at the start of the show, oh, Daniel Bryan, what the hell? Bryan Danielson's been taken out, and his full-time career is now over. And you're like, wow, okay. And that's it. They instead decide to start the show with Adam Cole. As I was saying at the start of the program here, when we started reviewing the show, this Dynamite, I said opening segments I'm fine with, especially if they're pivotal to stuff happening on the show, big angle, stuff like that. We start with Adam Cole instead of addressing what everyone everyone is expecting to be addressed. Mox, Danielson, is Danielson okay? What's his health status? So on and so forth. And Mox just, gloating, just being the evil dictator that he is, right? But we got nothing of that. And throughout the entire show, this is halfway through the show at this point. We are halfway through this show, and we've barely mentioned Danielson being gone, the extent of his injuries. We've barely even touched on it. We haven't even had some of the guys who were at ringside, who came out during the beatdown on Danielson at WrestleDream. We didn't even have Orange Cassidy cutting a promo about it. We didn't have Darby saying anything. Darby wasn't even on the show outside of his thing with Tony Hawk. We didn't hear from Daniel Garcia about it. Nothing. No one talking about the impact of it, of how serious it is, of, we don't know what Mox is up to. Frankly, the locker room is a little afraid. Like, nothing. And this would have been the time to do it. If we're doing parallels with the NWO, which is what a lot of people are doing, and I think they're to this stage, it's a fair comparison to compare Mox's group and their actions to the NWO. Well, commentary would always be talking about, what the NWO is going to be up to. I wonder what Hollywood Hulk Hogan is up to. Oh, the Outsiders are up to this. There was always talk about the NWO. Now, I was watching back then, and maybe sometimes they talked a little too much about it. Sometimes it was to the detriment of other things happening on the show, or the match happening like right in the ring as it was happening. Commentary wouldn't even address the match. They'd be talking about NWO stuff, and that kind of got annoying. So there's nonetheless a sweet spot you can have between having all of your segments be about Mox's group and then not talking about Mox's group at all, or barely, when it's supposed to be the biggest angle in your company right now, because it involves your world championship. It involves a guy who was injured, Bryan Danielson, one of the greatest to ever do it, probably the top babyface of the company, being injured out severely to the point that we have no updates, nothing like the follow-up to the WrestleDream angle, main event angle, was not on par. Again, I don't understand why the choice was to open with Adam Cole. Adam Cole in this spot here, in the middle of the show, would have been absolutely acceptable. But you start the show and if you don't want to start the show with Mox and you want to keep this, right? Have wrestlers cut promos on Danielson backstage, or about how the locker room is in a state. No one knows what's going on. Moxley doesn't even show up into the locker rooms anymore. No, and his group either. So we don't know what they're up to. Why didn't Yuta give his justifications for turning on Danielson? It's a very weird follow-up. It's very weird. And I think there's a bit of a disservice there's a little bit of a disservice happening here. I don't think it's doing it quite justice. I don't think so. It shouldn't feel secondary. It shouldn't come across as just like, oh yeah, these guys are here and they're beating up the lower mid-carders. Because that's what happens later on, right? Why don't we skip to that? right towards the end of the show, the Mox's group is at a loading dock fighting off Top Flight, Action Andretti, and the Dark Order, all like guys who are not pushed, that the audience perceives as lower card guys. Like, there's no reason why this should be exciting. There's no reason for this to be, all right, cool. Well, we know what's going to happen next. These are guys that they're just setting up to, that they're setting up for Mox and company to just plow through on a Dynamite or a Collision or whatever, right? That's what this is for. We get it. Cannon fodder, essentially. But where was Orange Cassidy in this mix? Cassidy was, one of the two guys who was left there staring at the camera at the end of Wrestle Dream as we faded to black, and people were like, "Here we go. Here are our Avengers. Here are the people who are going to stick up for what's right." None of that happened. Like, I'm into this angle. It's good. It's good because this version of Mox is great. I think it's a good stable of people that are convincing in the roles that they're going to be undertaking here. Like, it works and it's intriguing. Look, Mox said that this was going to be a war. Well, this was not, Wrestle Dream was not shots fired. This was, we won the first battle. And it was a big one. And we're sort of like scooching it off. We're not putting any emphasis on it. It's a very weird direction. It's a very weird direction. A direction in which we decided that starting the show with Adam Cole would be a much better call. I don't get it. I promise you I don't get it. The Elite, after the beatdown of the conglomeration and assorted jabronskis, the Elite are backstage with it wasn't Renee, it was the other girl with the dark hair. I can't remember her name. Not Alicia Etude. I don't remember her name. They get interviewed, and the Young Bucks say, "Hey, whatever happened out there, it's none of our business." And then Daniel Garcia shows up, and he says, "What? You're just gonna let this happen? You're just gonna?" And you see, this is the kind of fire. If Daniel Garcia, just a little earlier in the evening, had cut a promo about Danielson being done, and how he's always admired Danielson and he's fought him, and Danielson has made him a better pro wrestler, whatever the fuck, then this would have been all the more meaningful when he shows up to confront the Bucks. Then you're like, okay, I see the through line here. I understand it. This is cool. But no, it's just like random stuff happening. It doesn't matter. Anyway, Jack Perry gets into Daniel Garcia's face. The Elite hit the bricks. Private Party's there as well, and he says he's got their back and they got his back, and oh, right. Okie dokie. We get a video package going over the Swerve MVP segment from Wrestle Dream, which leads us to Shelton Benjamin defeating Lio Rush. Shelton X Benjamin is back. This was good. I thought this was quite good. I enjoyed this match probably more than I feel like I'm on the high end of it. I thought this was quite good, with Lio Rush just doing a fantastic job selling for Shelty, just bouncing all across the ring. And Benjamin came out to some really great reactions from the crowd, and that's really neat. This isn't necessarily the time or the place to pontificate on, the significance of Shelton Benjamin and his contributions anyway to pro wrestling, and maybe how his former employer tried too hard to make him work. How about that? But we're not going to get into that here, but sometimes you can just let a good wrestler wrestle and that'll do the job. Shelton does his run-up knee strike on the apron, but boy, does he lose his footing. He loses his footing and he tumbles down, but he was okay. And it actually was kind of cool, I thought. Like the momentum knocking him off the map, off the mat, off the apron. You know, I kind of liked. I didn't hate it. Belly to bellies. He also belly to bellies Lio Rush on the floor. Lio Rush is just getting the tar beat out of him here. Like he had a role here, and he was right into it. He fights back with a couple of dives and a cutter. Shelton X Benjamin does his run-up suplex and does an incredible release German as well. He does an exploder type suplex and gets the win. MVP after the match challenges Swerve to an upcoming match. They actually make it official for Fright Night Dynamite on October 30th. Fright Night Dynamite. You got the alliteration going there. That's pretty good. I also like this match a lot. I thought it was a 3 3/4 stars. I thought this was really, really good. I thought it was a great return for Shelton and Lio Rush. Lio Rush, who revealed over the past couple of days that he has re-signed with All Elite. So good for him. Hopefully everything will work out this time around. Then we have the Darby Allin thing for the Tony Hawk charity for building skate parks, something to that effect. Look, it's fine. It was, it's okay. It was a little advertisement thing. Swerve Strickland is then interviewed backstage, and he says MVP and Sheldon are mids who are mad that his minimum is their max. I kind of like that. And he's ready to fight. He basically accepts the challenge to fight Shelton Benjamin. Tony Schiavone is in the ring. He's ready for a press conference with Don Callis and the family. Callis comes out flanked by Lance Archer and Brian Cage. So Brian Cage, now an official part of the Don Callis family. And basically Callis here says, I'm kind of excited about the idea of tag team gold, pointing to the two guys next to him. So it's like, why don't, I might just be coming for some tag team gold soon. But there's more news coming, and he invites out Konosuke Takeshita and Kyle Fletcher. Takeshita cuts a promo in Japanese, then cuts to English where he says, I'm going to fight you for this belt anywhere, anytime. And Kyle Fletcher says, if anyone is upset for what I did to Will Ospreay and you want to know why, Kyle, why? Well, you're not going to know. Too bad. And Callis ends the promo. The press conference, I should say, because the audience is being disrespectful. They were very loud. There was some great heat. The great Don Callis heat continues. Good little segment. That was fun. And Callis did say, I think he said something to the effect that this version of the Don Callis family is the strongest that it's ever been, and I have a tendency to agree. I think it's a good group he has now. I think it's a good group. And it's crazy how Kyle Fletcher didn't look lost here. It's crazy how Kyle Fletcher just, there would have been a time where he would have looked like the young boy, but he didn't here. He looked tremendous. What a transformation this guy has been through over the past year or so. Just absolutely fantastic. Mariah May is interviewed backstage, and she's demanding things because journalists don't ask her question at press conferences. Who cares? Why is she bringing this up? Do you know what she's talking about? I know what she's talking about, but I know what she was talking about because it was explained to me. Because I was off doing the Thanksgiving thing this weekend, so there's a lot of stuff that I was away. Since I was away offline, that I didn't see transpire. But apparently this turned into a controversy because only one person asked Mariah May a question at the post Wrestle Dream press conference, and people took umbrage to that. Who cares? Who could possibly care? If a journalist doesn't have any questions to ask, what do you want them to do? So, champ, what do you think of how are you feeling, champ? Another great defense? Like, what are you going to ask her if you don't have anything? And from what I understand, she was in character, right? You know, if I'm a journalist there, or even just myself, not even as a journalist, myself, I'm at a press event at one of these press events, and I get to ask a question, and the wrestler's in character. I'm not asking the wrestler. I'm not asking questions to the in character wrestler. I'm there to ask questions. I'm not there to be part of the show. I'm not there to perpetuate kayfabe. If you want me to be a part of the show, you can pay me just like you pay all of your other performers to be part of the show. I wish more influencers and people got that they are not part of the show and that they should be being paid to get part of the show and ask their silly little questions when they ask silly little questions. I don't understand this Mariah May controversy. I'm like, who cares? It doesn't matter. It also happens in real sports sometimes, but apparently this was a thing. It's dumb. Anyway, she and she's standing there going, why won't anyone fight me for my title? And I think it's kind of pathetic that the world champion is out there going, I'm going to anyone who wants a shot, come and get it. Like, this is also bad booking. Like, this is bad booking. And I think we are currently in a holding pattern for Toni Storm to return. So they're not going too hard on Mariah May and creating all of these, you know, giving her all these angles, because I feel like we're in a holding pattern. I kind of feel that's what it is, you know, kind of like with Jade towards the end of her run, when it was obvious Chris Statlander was supposed to be the person to take the TBS title off of Jade, but then she got injured. And instead of doing anything else, no, they stuck to the plan of having Statlander take the title off of her. But in the meantime, Jade just floundered. They didn't know what to do with her. I kind of feel like this is this type of situation here, because Anna Jay runs in and says, I'm going to challenge you for your title. And you know, she accidentally slaps Christopher Daniels, and okay, this is what we're doing next. It's kind of, it's not a great look to have the champion going, how come nobody's challenging? They should, your wrestlers should be lining up for title chances, for title shots. They should be lining up for title shots. So what are we doing? Just like, I don't know, no one's challenging me. So I'm, you know, it's like, this is dumb. It's dumb. It doesn't help Mariah May. It devalues your world championship. And this is not against Anna Jay. Don't get me wrong. This is not because I'm like, Anna Jay, she stinks. Well, she had a very bad match at Wrestle Dream, but maybe this is going to be the redemption, right? Ricochet gets interviewed by Renee Paquette. Basically, puts over Takeshita winning, saying, however, Takeshita, you beat Will Ospreay, not me. So he's still got his sights set on Takeshita. And, he says, and basically he sets up an open challenge for this upcoming collision, where he's like, okay, Takeshita, you want to come? It's open, or anyone else, it doesn't matter. Open challenge. Good little promo by Ricochet, who seems to be flexing some capacity, some capabilities that he didn't have in that regard during his WWE tenure. And finally, Christian Cage defeated Jay White. This was all right. Nothing more. I think it was interesting that Christian Cage, babyface Jay White, is going to take a little time for me to get used to, because Christian Cage stalls at first, which is fine. It's a Christian Cage thing, but it's also very much a Jay White thing. Jay White early on gets a Muda lock in and chops Christian Cage. Christian Cage does a slop drop on the apron, which was a great move. And then Kip Sabian blows his spot. And this is like the highlight of the match, really. Kip Sabian jumps onto the apron and then jumps back away when he realizes he fucks up. and goes back into the audience. And that even triggers Hangman Adam Page to run down, and he sort of lies on the side of the ring for the rest of the match because he's not supposed to be there. Because his cue was Kip Sabian. We saw it later on. Because I was like, did Sabian blow his spot? And why did Hangman Page run down and he's not doing anything? You know? But Sabian did blow his spot. Because we saw it later. We saw the exact same spot happen where Kip Sabian hops up on the ring and distracts the ref so that Hangman Adam Page can land a buckshot lariat, causing Jay White to lose the match. But Sabian did it much earlier, much too early in the match. So he hopped up, which was immediately Hangman's cue to come down. Now, whether Sabian was early or not, it doesn't matter for Page, because Page is like, well, I got to go. If we're doing this here, I got to go hit my spot because my spot is generating the finish. My spot affects the finish. So even though it was early, Page was probably like, all right, well, we're doing it. And he ran down and did the thing. But then Sabian just like backed away because no one was really paying him any mind. Or, I don't remember exactly, but someone probably told him, hey, you're early, kid. So he left, and then Page was like, ooh. And then he lay down to the side of the ring and did those goofy faces. So Kip Sabian absolutely blew the spot here. 100% blew the spot. So they do the finish, and so Jay White and Hangman Adam Page are not done. See, this is why sometimes it's really, I love Hangman Adam Page, but I don't love him as much as Hangman Adam Page fans love him. They get really anxious when he loses a match, when he's not doing they're like, oh no, the Hangman Adam Page is fine. He will always be fine. He is still the protagonist of the company. He's still the main character, as some people like to say. He's going to be fine. And I implore Hangman Adam Page fans to chill out, because there's always a plan for him. We've talked about it before. He is the only pro wrestler in that entire company to have been booked from beginning to now with a complete, traceable, logical through line. He's fine. Stop worrying about the Hangman Adam Page. He's okay. Worry a little more about Kip Sabian blowing his spot so early in a match. Anyway, gonna wrap it up. 5 edits due to sneezing, in case you're wondering. Have a great rest of your day. Remember to leave a like on the videos, a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, or a 5-star rating on Spotify. We're streaming tonight. If you're listening to this on Thursday, so on the YouTube channel, come check us out. Otherwise, we'll be back with the Mr. Warren Hayes Show and some more streams next week. So go watch some Randy Orton and get back to me. And I'll see you next time.